only have 1 week to look better? Watch this.
Our next caller is Molly from Virginia.
Hey, Molly. How can we help you?
Guys, so happy to be on right now. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah.
You got it.
Of course.
All right. So I guess I'll get into my question. So my question is regarding, it's very bodybuilding-esque. So I'm a personal trainer, love fitness. That's all great. But my wedding is coming up and I don't know much about manipulating all the little tiny variables. So sodium intake or water intake and how that can make you look a little bit fluffier or watery, and how to properly do sessions leading up into it so that way you don't have any like excess inflammation and look kind of puffy. So I want to basically be an aesthetic goddess on my wedding day. So I'm going to ask you guys kind of how I can go about doing that.
I love the honesty. Yeah. How long do we have? What's our time frame here?
So from now we have about 4 months, almost to the day, actually 4 months and a day.
Oh, wow. We can do a lot.
Yeah. Well, okay. So are you at the body fat percentage and weight and all that stuff that you want to be at? You're just asking for like that last week?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah, not right now. So I still have about, my guess is about 12 to 13 more pounds to go until I'm at probably the ideal body fat percentage. I'd like to be high teens, low 20s ideally. And right now I'm 25%.
Okay. Now, Molly, before I let Adam, because he's going to be the best person to answer this because he competed in bodybuilding and he knows how to peak and all that stuff. Before I let him answer, you know, the vast majority of how good someone looks is accomplished way before you do any type of carb or sodium manipulation. In fact, that makes almost no difference unless you start to get really lean. So the biggest thing is going to be up until then, right? Like getting leaner, doing it the right way, building muscle, sculpting your body. And then the biggest thing is avoiding foods that you know cause bloat and inflammation. And you probably know what those foods are for you. Those two things right there will get you 98% of the way there. The other 2% or 1% is going to be what Adam's going to talk about, which has to do with like water, sodium, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a just very specific, generic answer that I think will add value. But the main thing is what I want you to do. One, I want Doug to put you in the forum if you're not already in there, so you have access to that. Two, awesome. I want you to diet train as if we're not even thinking about peak week, but getting lean for your wedding day. And then literally the week before you head into your peak week or wedding week, you let me know where your macros are at right before that, and then we can manipulate them before that final week. The one thing that I would say to do from now till then, so we have a lot of room to manipulate, is keep your sodium up. If you don't use LMNT, I would recommend using 1 to 2 packets of that for consistently all the way through. That way we keep your sodium high, and that when we do potentially manipulate that, we're not doing it in an unhealthy way. I'm not asking you to go no sodium, and I'm not a fan of that at all. It's essential and it's important. And so, and you don't need to cut sodium as hard as like everybody thinks. If you train your body to take in high sodium leading into peak week, you can reduce to a normal, healthy level, and you will get some of the water pooling effect that people want. You kick up some asparagus in there, and then we manipulate carbohydrates 3 or 4 days leading up to the wedding day, and then load you up with carbs that morning of the wedding, and you'll achieve this, bodybuilder trick that you get. But like Sal said, right now till then is everything. Like if you slack off for the next month because you have so much time, that will make a greater difference than the best peak week advice I could give you when we get down to there. So right now is the real challenge.
Yeah, and Molly, I want to also, have you ever been to a bodybuilding or figure show? Have you ever been to any of those shows?
I've never been to a show in person. I can live vicariously slightly through social media, but that's about it.
Okay, here's why I'm asking you this, okay?
Saying it because the women look terrible.
They look horrible. So here's the deal. When you're on stage and they're judging your physique, they're not looking at your face. They're looking at your muscles and the definition, whatever. If you look at these competitors in the face, they look like they're dying, especially the women. They don't look healthy. So you want to look good in your wedding pictures. If you get down to like 18% body fat, if you try to get too dry by sucking out too much water out of your body, your skin's going to look bad and you're probably going to look 5 years older.
Yeah.
So so it's not, I wouldn't approach it with, I would go with like 30% of the aggressiveness that a bodybuilder would. I wouldn't even go close to what they do because it's not going to look good. You might have a little bit more definition in your biceps and your quads, but you're not going to look healthy. And what you really want to look, on your wedding day, I'm assuming, is you want to look healthy and vibrant. So the whole like water manipulation, sodium and carb manipulation, you might drop a few pounds of water, but that may make you look more tired and less healthy. Not necessarily better, right? So
that was the other thing I didn't tell you. I'm sorry, that I should have told you that too. Is that keep the sodium high, keep the water high too. So make sure you're drinking a lot of water
like
right
a gallon
now.
A day, yeah.
Yes, gallon a day. Keep the sodium up all the way through this entire time, and then when we get to the week before, you can literally hit me up and let me know where. And if you told me where your macros are at, where your water intake is at, and how, and you've been consistently doing like the LMNT, like I'm saying, I'd literally just tell you to cut out the 2 packets of LMNT. I would tell you to reduce the water intake. I would tell you to take your carbohydrates down by about 50% for the 4 or 5 days leading up to the wedding day, and then the morning of, I would carb load you. That's kind of what that's
awesome.
A generic idea of what it would look like.
Yeah. Should I play around at all within these next 4 months to see how my body aesthetically responds to, like, okay, if I have carbs on this day, what does my body look like the day after? Or if I go low carb, does my body look better? Or is it pretty safe to say that I should just drop carbs no matter what 4 to 5 days before and then load right beforehand?
Here's why you should test it out. Not because of how you look, but rather because of how you feel. Some people drop carbs, carb load, and they get gastro issues. I'm sure you don't want to be bloated or have diarrhea or whatever on the day of your wedding, right? So that's
Not
why
necessarily.
Yeah, that's why I would test that out, is to see how you feel. And I'm gonna be very clear here. Bodybuilders look terrible. If you see them in person, they look terrible. We look at the pictures of their muscles. But I don't think, are you getting married in a Speedo? You know what I mean? Are you going to be flexing? You're going to be up there in a wedding dress. You want to look healthy. You want to have good energy. Bodybuilders are like the walking dead. So are figure competitors and fitness competitors and bikini competitors. They have no energy. You're going to be interacting with people. You'll be up there with your husband. Like, honestly, I would worry 0 about peak week. I would worry 100% about just getting leaner up until then. That would do everything.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you kind of slacking off and not being consistent in the next 2 or 3 weeks will make a bigger difference than the best peak week setup I can do for you in that week. That doesn't mean that I don't appreciate that. I mean, being completely transparent, like, I utilize these techniques to go to Vegas, like once I learned how to manipulate this stuff and I knew I was going to be poolside in, 2 or 3 weeks, like, I knew how to make my body look better when I hit the pool at 9 a.m.
Yeah, but it wasn't like you're like competing where you're just at the pool and you're dizzy.
No,
right.
No. And if I wanted to look my best, it would be the work that I did leading up to that. Yeah. So that's really where this is going to be done. But that doesn't mean that you can't manipulate and play some of this. And we would play with the carbohydrates, we would play with the water intake, we would play with sodium, but you would not need to do it. And you don't. A lot of bodybuilders don't do this correctly. This is an area of Lane Norton had dispelled this a long time ago when I first started getting in bodybuilding. In fact, that's how I found Lane, was talking about water and sodium manipulation and how a lot of bodybuilders do this wrong. A lot of them just they over pull and they put too much stress and emphasis on that, and a lot of times their body responds negatively to it because your body needs sodium, it needs water. These are important things. So it's a very fine line of how much you want to fuck with that, trying to achieve this look. Many times, guys and girls will do that and they end up looking worse.
Yeah,
they look better in the week before with their
because your muscles are made up of mostly fluid, so you could manipulate everything, draw water out of your body, and look more flat and flabby.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to pass out up there.
Yeah, and or dizzy, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I want you just to stay the course and do do the things I told you, and then the week before, where you're at would dictate what I told you to do. And I wouldn't do something drastic. It would literally, like I said, just drop the LMNT packets. It would be reducing the carbohydrates by a certain percentage for a few days leading up. And then the morning of, I would refill your body up with some carbohydrates so it fills those muscle bellies up. That's basically what I would do. I wouldn't want to put too much emphasis and stress on the sodium and water because it could end up backfiring on us.
Yeah, no, that all sounds good. I guess another way I could have phrased it is like, what should I not do right before the wedding to come in looking soft? So that makes a lot of sense. And I do plan, I mean, I've run pretty hardcore cuts before, and sometimes I end up looking a little bit skinny fat-ish because I do lose some of that muscle fullness. So I started taking creatine. I will add in the sodium. But I guess the goal is to kind of still look lean and toned, if you will, in the dress, and not have that kind of skinny fat look that sometimes I would get when I lose some weight, because I am not going to get shredded. I already know that, and I don't want to.
Yeah, Molly, don't do anything radical too, like the week before, the days before, because it could affect you negatively. So I would say, get yourself fit, healthy, go, stay the course. And then the week of, I would just avoid foods that are inflammatory. I would eat things that make you feel good, give you good digestion. That's what's going to make you look the best. It really is, because you could, and a lot of competitors do this, they eat in ways to look the most shredded, but those ways make them look the least healthy as well. They end up with really bad skin. If you've ever seen like bikini competitors, look at their skin. They break out hormone imbalances, and yeah, okay, they're shredded, but they don't look healthy. They don't look good. They don't look like, I'm sure they wouldn't want to look like that on their wedding day. So sure. It really, that would be the thing I would focus on. Like, stay hydrated, eat foods that affect you well, that you digest well. Don't add anything radical. Don't do something crazy that you think might help, because it may backfire.
What, Molly, what program, are you following one of our MAPS programs yet?
Not currently. I am doing like a very modified MAPS anabolic program, and I've kind of spread it out over 4 days, took off some volume. So it has the same idea, and it's phased very similarly, but I'm right towards the end of that, and I'm still kind of in a gray area of what I want to do afterwards. I've ran MAPS Strong, and that was a lot of fun, but my only complaint is my traps were like up towards my ears.
Yeah.
And
Strong can do that.
Which is probably great for all the guys listening, or even girls who want large traps. But for me, it was like a little bit too much. So I would Symmetry. Probably want to run something. I still like full body, but I haven't made a final decision on what I wanted to do afterwards.
Or aesthetic.
You want to try? Well, look, which one do you want? MAPS Aesthetic or MAPS Symmetry? Because I think both programs would be good for you.
So this might help you guys answer this, because I'm not really sure. I've looked into MAPS Aesthetic, but I have a pretty busy schedule. And 4 days a week is a good consistent level for me, but I kind of have other life stressors. So I do try to keep the workouts relatively lower intensity, not in the workouts, but just as an overall feel is I'm not hitting volume really, really hard. Just because I can overtrain relatively easily with other stressors. So that's what kept me away from MAPS Aesthetic, because I have heard people say like it's a lot of volume, and I don't want to really overtrain.
Yeah, I like Symmetry then. We're going to send you Symmetry.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate that. I've been really curious about that one too. As a personal trainer, I've wanted to get it to use on my clients. So I'll be happy to have it for myself and for them.
Thank you. And congratulations on your upcoming wedding.
Yep.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
You got it. I'll tell you guys a story where this messed me up. So I had a jiu-jitsu tournament, my first tournament coming up that I had coming up, and I thought, I've never carb loaded. I've never depleted and loaded, because athletes will do this too, right? Totally. Endurance athletes. So I did, and it was a radical change. I chose foods that I normally don't eat, and I ended up giving myself gastro issues the day of the tournament, which obviously backfire, right? No pun intended. So, but I mean, look, it's funny when someone says, "How can I use the techniques bodybuilders use to look better on my wedding day or on this photo shoot, whatever?" Unless it's like a physique photo shoot, like, you're not going to look better. You'll look worse. They all look terrible. I remember the first time I went to a bodybuilding show, and it was my buddies, and I went backstage, and you look at them in the face, and they just look like they're all dead. So it's not a healthy look.
Everybody's laying down and just hungry.
I mean, I get it, because I could take right now, like let's just say I rip my shirt off right now, took a photo of myself with the way I've been eating for the last week, and I could manipulate what's going on in my diet over the next 4 or 5 days to make that picture look different, to make it look better. Just by playing with carbohydrates.
Yeah, but think about how much you know about your body.
Well, I mean, she's also a trainer, right?
Yeah.
She's it sounds like she's already built.
How long did it take you though to figure this out for yourself? Like, you know, to the gram.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
it's so different, right?
Yeah, and all the real work is done before. She didn't strike me as the average person who asked this question. She sounded like an experienced lifter. She's a trainer herself. She understands she's not trying to get crazy peak week, but hey, I know that there are some things that I can do with water and salt and carbohydrates to manipulate what does that look like. And really what that looks like is consistency heading in. Like, I don't mean that just because the training and dieting will make the biggest difference, but also knowing, right? Like, so that's why I just gave her generic advice of add 2 packets of LMNT, keep your water intake up there,
very basic.
Keep your carbs up there. And then when we go to that week, we don't dramatically shift all those things. Dropping the LMNT packets, that's not going to be a big deal because she's going to get natural sodium in her diet, so she'll be okay there. Taking her water from a gallon to a half or a quarter, that's still a lot more water than the average person takes. She'll be totally fine.
Providing her levers to be able to manipulate a little bit.
Yeah. But I would never go like to a person who's like not dialed in, not doing, and then be like, hey, let's.
Because you know what's going to happen, right? People are going to listen to this and be like, oh, that'll do the trick for me.
It's not the biggest.
It's like, no. Going down 5% body fat is way more impactful than doing any of that stuff right there. And it doesn't make a difference unless you're lean anyway. You know, if you're not sitting at a lean body fat and you manipulate those things, it doesn't make that huge of a difference.
Yeah.